As silly as it sounds, Pokemon has taught me lessons. I'm not big into gaming, and I never was one to think it's the most productive way of spending your time, unless you can make money doing it, which is exclusive to the elite players in the space. Of course, more evidence has been coming out about how gaming does have some benefits on cognitive abilities, such as learning, problem solving, reflexes, and motor learning. But what I want to talk to you about is how Pokemon taught me some lessons that are critical to life. Let's hop right into it. The first thing we're going to talk about is perfection. To start, let's talk about the idea of perfection. That's all it is, an idea, because when put into play, it's not real. In Pokemon, we're always building new teams to combat the meta, but there comes a point when as a team builder and player, you understand you'll never have the perfect team. There is no combination of 6 and moveset of 4 that can beat all other existing combinations. The only thing you can prepare for is what you know is in usage according to the monthly statistics. Look at it like this. You have to take a final test and it encompasses everything you've learned over the semester or year. You're given a paper that tells you the topics to study for, but you don't know what topics are going to show up the most on the test. So you might end up over preparing for one topic and under preparing for another. But at the same time, you also have other tests you need to study for. So it's not like you're going to spend all your time studying for one test. It's the same principle with Pokemon. There comes a point where you have to just try and prepare adequately and then say it's good enough. We can handle the majority of the topics. We might have a few weak points, but that's okay. In Pokemon, as long as you can handle the majority of the metagame threats, your team should be solid. All it comes down to is how do you pilot your team? It's the same thing in real life. How do you pilot yourself? The second thing is risk versus reward. This topic is pretty straightforward, but it's an important concept. Risk versus reward is where you as a player will evaluate the potential benefits of a decision versus the drawbacks. Hence this situation right here. This is very common in Pokemon. You have a Landorus Therian and a Rotom Wash on the field. Rotom has the advantage in this scenario. It's immune to Lando's Earthquake and Lando is weak to Rotom Wash's Hydro Pump. The Lando has the moveset of EQ, Earthquake, Stealth Rocks, U-Turn, and Knockoff. Rotom has Will-O-Wisp, Hydro Pump, Volt Switch, and Pain Split. Now, Lando wants to get up rocks, but it's not sure if the Rotom has Defog. So, it could get up the rocks, but it could also risk the possibility of dying to a Hydro Pump. Or, if it stays in, it can get crippled by Will-O-Wisp Burn. Lastly, the turn could also end up everything taking place being pointless, because the Rotom has Defog and it just defogs the hazards that Landorus just set up. So if this happens, no progress was made on either side. So it also ends up being a situation of, say the Lando does get up the Stealth Rocks, and say you get lucky and the Will-O-Wisp or Hydro Pumped, both of them miss. When you switch out, that Rotom is still going to be able to defog if it has it, or the Pokemon coming in is going to take a Will-O-Wisp burn. It's one of those two scenarios. So either way, you have to look at it from that perspective. What is going to happen? Is this actually worth the possible risks? So, the player with Lando, let's say they also have a Gastrodon in the back, which is immune to electric, so Rotom can't switch out via Volt Switch, but it can click Will-O-Wisp for a mid-ground play, meaning the Gastrodon, if it hits, will be burned. But the Rotom player also has a Charizard in the back, which is a threat to the Landorus player's team. So, what would be the best play in this scenario? If the Lando player gets up Stealth Rocks, it puts pressure on the Charizard, provided the Rotom does not have Defog. In that scenario, the trade might be welcomed, but if it doesn't have Defog, if it does have Defog, well, obviously you need to collect enough information to know what is the best play. And what is the best play in this scenario? The best play is obviously, it depends on the opponent's tendencies and everything encompassing this scenario. It's all about information gathering. There's no point in making a play that's risky early on if you don't have enough info, or simply speaking, there's no reason to. Now, relating this to real life, a scenario encompassing risk versus reward is stock trading. This is going to be very high risk and very high reward. High risk, low reward, or no reward. Or of course, it can be the opposite, where it's low risk, high reward, or low risk, low reward. It all depends on how you play your cards. Obviously, if you gamble on a stock that's volatile, you have a high chance of losing money. Everything is calculated risks. Number 3 is positioning. In the game of Pokemon, this means making strategic decisions during battles to maximize team effectiveness and minimize vulnerabilities. You can say positioning and risk versus reward, they go hand in hand. since positioning is influenced by factors of the game such as switch-ins, move selection, field effects, and the opponent's teams. Strategic decisions such as double switching, where you make a switch then switch again, expecting your opponent to switch again to end up in a more favorable situation. There are a lot of examples that can be made, but let me give you the rundown of how this relates to real life. A simple one is your career path. You make decisions to make yourself more valuable, to climb a work ladder. This can be in the form of a degree, further education such as certifications, or higher level education, experience in a job but at multiple organizations to build a resume, or networking people to get better opportunities. Going hand in hand with these decisions can be predictions. I've just realized I'm really good at noticing trends or making predictions. While it might sound weird, Pokemon, like many other games, has patterns. It probably just trained my brain to recognize them better, and I noticed the benefits during things like sports, conversations, or even interviews. I can say I noticed this around the time I started playing Pokemon competitively, and I used to watch a lot of Pokemon, like videos from other people, and I used to always see their fancy shit, where people would just like predict their opponents, and then make the flex play. So I guess it all just rubbed off on me, and then eventually I started replicating it myself, and you know, that's just how it went, I guess. Next is number 4, which is it's actually 3 things. So we have aggressiveness, which is making plays, patience, waiting for opportunity, and then the last one is simple, not overthinking. In Pokemon, it can be really easy to just start losing and giving your opponent all the momentum. It's like sports. In basketball, we say it's a game of runs, because each team eventually ends up going on a run of scoring while the other can't do anything. Pokemon has taught me you can't just be passive or you're gonna lose. You have to be aggressive, or what we call making plays. You're gonna lose, or think of it like this aggressive play and possibly get put in a better position because you created an opportunity, or you might lose because of that play. But if you do nothing, you're gonna 100% lose. It's where you realize you might lose either way, but in one path you have a chance to win. Of course, you're making the decisions based on a calculated risk. The idea is you want to get the momentum back and apply pressure. This leads me into the second one, being patience. There are times in Pokemon where you're gonna have to be patient and repeat switches, repeat the literal situation you were in 5 turns ago. The idea being you wait for your opponent to make a mistake, or it may be a scenario where it's a long game and every time they switch in, they're just constantly getting chipped. But you know, it's a situation that's been set up a long time ago, so you just need to wait. One of my friends loves calling this conditioning, because eventually through repeated plays, people are gonna think you're gonna continue doing the same thing. This is why you have to wait for them to make a mistake and take advantage of it. Eventually they're gonna start playing unconsciously and making the same plays, and that's when you just realize, okay, I got them. Say every time I have my Heatran in on your Landorus, I switch out to my Dragonite, and you click U-turn, and you go into your Clefable. After repeating this play, eventually my opponent might start unconsciously clicking U-turn. Now, this is where you may think, this is a terrible play, because, you know, it's a matchup of Heatran and Landorus. I click Stealth Rocks and they click U-turn, but now I'm in an advantage position, because I recognize if I keep doing this, I won't make any progress, but they will. But by putting up rocks, every time Landorus switches in, it takes 12% chip. Lastly is the lesson of simplicity, or not overthinking. It's really easy to try and formulate some crazy scenario where you think your opponent is going to make some crazy play or switch, but sometimes the honest answer is just attack what's in front of you, especially if there's 0 drawback. In real life, a lot of the time we overthink, when we shouldn't. This is really applicable on tests. There is a point where I just stopped thinking too hard and I would just select my answer and that's it. I know so many people who are bad test takers because they overthink. They have the right answer, then they might ponder about it for a few, and then they're gonna be like, okay, well, this might not be the right answer. So they psych themselves out and then they change their answer. There are times where you need to realize, either I know it or I don't, and thinking extra hard is not going to solve anything, especially if there's a time limit involved. Now, number 5 is role compression. This one's a bit more complicated, but a good analogy is when you hear people say, jack of all trades. A perfect Pokemon that comes to mind is Landorus T. Back in Generation 7, this guy did it all. He could be an offensive threat, your speed controller Scarfer, stealth rocker, hazard removal, defensive pivot. He did everything. Now, let's take this to real life. There are so many times when you just realize you don't want to have multiple things or people to fill roles. So, you get something or someone who can fill multiple roles. Take fashion for example. There are some shoes that are gonna go with every single outfit, Or maybe you have a nice pair of black pants or trousers, something of that nature that can fit really well together with other pieces of clothes you decide to put together. That is what we call versatile. Or maybe in sports, you have a player like LeBron James, where a lot of the time you hear he doesn't play a position. Now, we know this is not true. He's listed as being a small forward, but if you watch basketball, you've seen this guy do it all. He shoots, scores, passes, sets up plays defense. He could just fill multiple roles. He's valuable. Now, in working out, oftentimes, time's a big factor. Not everyone can just do 10 exercises and be in the gym for 2 hours. This is when you start selecting exercises that hit multiple muscle groups, or what we call compound exercises. So that 2-hour workout just turned into an hour workout because you were able to hit all the muscles that you wanted to with a lot less exercises. Role compression is a big deal. Being good at multiple things, especially today, when just being good at your job is not gonna cut it. The life lesson here is versatility. Now, this is the last one and probably my favorite one, and it's luck. Realizing that luck is a skill and it's a part of almost everything. So many people have heard this quote: luck is when preparation meets opportunity. Seneca. You heard me talking about things like risk versus reward and positioning. Now, both of these things play a part in luck. Pokemon, just like real life, has a luck component. You click a move and crit the opponent or get a secondary effect, well, you got lucky. But at the same time, a lot of top players in the game will tell you, you create your luck through positioning. If you were in a good situation and you were able to freely make a move, and you happen to get lucky, that's just a cherry on top. Now, there are also obviously times when you're gonna do nothing and get lucky. Or maybe in real life, there are times when you do everything right and you just don't get lucky, and it's the same with Pokemon. Trust me, there have been players who have quit or raged to all hell because they've gotten lucked. A big part of the whole luck thing is realizing it is what it is. Some days everything can go right or go wrong, or maybe it can just be normal, but you might look at it like, well, it's normal, so you were lucky. Nothing went wrong. When playing a high-level game and there's no hacks taking place, it's one of those rare situations where you can say the best player won, or maybe not, because someone might complain they never got the possible lucky odds. I won't complain seriously when others or myself get lucky. Success and luck go hand in hand. It's not just hard work. Some people, they work hard and they get lucky, which leads to an opportunity. But then there's some people, and we've all seen it, there's somebody who works really hard but they never get lucky, so they never grow to the extent of others. It's all chance at the end of the day. But the takeaway from this is, don't worry about things that you can't control. If you get lucky, you do. But if you're unlucky, it is what it is. If no real damage has been done, it is what it is. Who cares? Just move on. Now, I hope you guys enjoyed my video. Just me talking about what I thought was some of the best lessons that Pokemon has taught me competitively. You might take this a little bit seriously, take it for what it is. It's just one of my ways of saying yeah, playing Pokemon has just been a big part of my life, and I just felt like there were certain things that it definitely taught me, even though some people might see even including myself, games are not really one of the best things in terms of the whole self-improvement route or whatever, but there are just certain lessons that you can just pull from anything for the most part. So, I just wanted to share that with you guys, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Talk to you guys later. Peace.